The boxing gym was a crucible of sweat and steel, its air thick with the scent of leather and liniment, the ring's canvas stained with effort. I was there to help clean up after hours of favor for my husband's friend Theo, a trainer whose presence filled the room like a heavyweight shadow. The neon lights buzzed overhead, casting stark glows over the punching bags, swaying gently in the quiet. Theo wrapped his hands with tape, his eyes locking onto mine, and his intensity was too big, too much for me to handle. But I kept saying yes, letting the night land its punches. I was 35, married to Michael, a man whose love was steady but soft like a sparring glove worn thin. Theo was different, broad, commanding, with hands that taped wrists with precision and eyes that hit harder than a jab. His tank top, damp with sweat, clung to his muscled chest, revealing the hard lines of his shoulders. My leggings tight and black, and my cropped tank top a deep teal that hugged my curves, caught the neon's glare, and his gaze lingered, slow, deliberate, waking a hunger I'd buried deep. My wedding ring glinted, a faint protest, but it couldn't block the fire rising in my chest. The city was a distant hum beyond the gym's cinder-block walls, its pulse drowned by the creak of the ring's ropes and the faint thud of a bag. Theo moved to the speed bag, his movements sharp, almost predatory, but his eyes were wild, untamed. I stood by the ring, my leggings stretching tight, revealing a hint of thigh as I leaned against the ropes, and his gaze followed, dark, possessive, stirring something wild. I should have left when the last boxer cleared out, when Michael's voice was still clear in my mind. But I stayed, and the night grew thicker, heavier. He offered me a water bottle, the plastic cool against my palm, condensation dripping like a secret. "Hold the bag," he said, his voice low, gruff like a coach calling a fight. I took the bottle, our fingers brushing a spark that shot through me, settling low, aching, unbearable. The water was cold, but it was nothing compared to the fire in my veins, the want that grew with every glance. My tank top clung to my skin, teasing my curves, and his eyes caught it, darkening with a desire that made my knees weak. The neon lights flickered, casting shadows that danced across his face, chiseled and magnetic. My heart pounded a rhythm that matched the pulse of desire running through me. Theo's gaze was a weight pressing against me, and I felt it, every inch of me alive, craving, screaming for something I shouldn't. "Brace it here," he said, guiding my hands to the bag, his voice a soft command like he was training more than my stance. I could have grabbed my jacket, walked out, but my body leaned toward him, my skin begging for his touch, his strength. The gym was a world apart, the city forgotten. His hand hovered near my wrist, so close I could feel its warmth, but he held back, waiting. "Push back," he said, his eyes locking on mine, urging me to move, to surrender. The guilt was there. Michael's face flashing in my mind, his smile as we planned a quiet dinner. But the want was ablaze, drowning out everything else. I gripped the bag, my breath shallow, my body trembling with the weight of what I was doing. The night was a fight, and I was already in the ring. The gym felt smaller now, the shadows tightening as the neon lights bathed us in a harsh glow. Theo's tank top was soaked, clinging to his chest, outlining the broad muscles that flexed as he adjusted a bag. My leggings were a traitor, hugging my curves, my tank top damp with the gym's heat, my skin prickling under his gaze. The water sat heavy in my stomach, but it was his presence that made me dizzy, drunk on the promise of his touch. The faint hum of the city was gone, replaced by the rhythmic thud of a bag, a sound that vibrated through me like a pulse. "You've got strength," he said, his voice rough like he was sizing up more than my grip. But he didn't move his body, a magnet pulling me closer. I thought of Michael, his gentle hands, His quiet love, the life we'd built, a routine of evenings predictable as a warm-up. But Theo's presence was a knockout punch, raw, untamed, filling the empty spaces Michael never could. My fingers twitched, aching to touch him, to feel the heat of his skin, the rhythm of his desire. The guilt was a sharp jab, stinging, but it only made the ache deeper, more desperate. The neon pulsed, casting shadows that seemed to sway with my heart. My tank top shifted, teasing my midriff, my breasts, and I felt exposed, alive, wanted in a way I hadn't been in years. Theo stepped closer, his body so near I could smell the sweat on his skin, mixed with the scent of leather and want. His fingers brushed my wrist as he handed me a roll of tape, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver through me, my body leaning toward him without permission. "Wrap it tight," he said, his voice a low growl, urging me to bind more than my hands. My hands moved over the tape, the fabric taut and smooth, a wordless plea my body couldn't hide. The guilt was a scream, Michael's voice echoing his laugh as we watched a game together. But it was no match for the fire in my veins, the need that consumed me. I thought of Michael, his face soft in sleep, but Theo's touch was real, burning, pulling me under. My fingers trembled, brushing his arm, an instinct I couldn't control, the teal of my tank top whispering against my skin, betraying my desire. His eyes darkened, locking on mine, a silent command to surrender. The gym was a cocoon now, shutting out the world. His hand slid to my lower back, light but deliberate, and I gasped, the sound swallowed by the quiet. The guilt was there, Michael's trust a ghost in my mind, but Theo's hands were real, promising a pleasure I'd forgotten existed. I leaned closer, my breasts brushing his chest, the contact sending a jolt through me that settled low, aching, unbearable. The neon's glow danced across his face, making him look like a trainer coaching my ruin. "Hit it harder," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear, sending a shiver through me that made my thighs clench. I couldn't hold back. My skin was on fire, my body trembling with need, my heart pounding like a speed bag. My hands found his wrist, feeling the heat through his skin, the rapid beat of his pulse. I was drowning in it, in him, in the reckless thrill of being wanted this way. The ring was a trap, and I was already cornered. The gym was a crucible now, the neon lights forging something dangerous between us. Theo's hands were on me, steady, possessive, guiding my stance in the ring, as if he were training my soul. The glow was harsh but searing, highlighting every curve of my leggings, my skin prickling under his gaze. His touch was deliberate, each movement a punch in a fight I couldn't resist, and I followed willingly, recklessly. My body was alive, every nerve singing, my thighs trembling as they pressed against the ropes, inviting him closer. His fingers slid higher, brushing the bare skin of my waist beneath my tank top, and I moaned, the sound soft, desperate, swallowed by the gym's silence. My body arched toward him, craving the contact, the sin. The guilt was a jagged hook cutting through me, but it only made the desire sharper, more urgent. His lips grazed my temple, a slow burning trail that made my head spin, my hands gripping his shoulders, nails digging into his tank top. The shadows danced, mirroring the chaos inside me, every movement a confession. "Keep your guard up," he murmured, his voice rough with need, his breath hot against my cheek, urging me to stay in the fight, to dive deeper. But I couldn't pull back, wouldn't pull back. The neon caught the sheen of sweat on his skin, making him look like a coach sparring with my ruin. My hand slid down his chest, feeling the broad muscle beneath his shirt, the rapid beat of his heart matching mine. My leggings clung tighter, outlining every curve, and his eyes followed, dark and unyielding, drinking in every inch of me. His hand moved higher, tracing the curve of my rib cage through my tank top, his fingers brushing just beneath my breast, and I gasped, my body shuddering under his touch. The gym was a haze, the world reduced to the space between us, to the heat of his hands, the rhythm of my breath. I thought of Michael, his quiet love, his trust, his hand on mine as we shared a quiet evening. But the thought was fleeting, swept away by the storm of desire. Every touch was a blow and a bout of surrender, and I took it willingly, chasing the fire, the danger, the ecstasy. His lips brushed my jaw, his breath ragged, and I tilted my head back, offering more, offering everything. My body trembled, caught between guilt and need. But the need was a tidal wave crashing over me, drowning out everything else. His hand slid lower, guiding my hips closer, and I moaned loud now, the sound mingling with the thud of a bag. I was his, and he knew it, his touch training me in ways I'd never be clean of. Then it came, a sharp bang from the gym's entrance, a late-night delivery, or a dropped weight breaking the spell, and with it reality. Michael's face flashed in my mind, clear and accusing his trust, a weight I couldn't ignore. I pushed against Theo's chest, my hands shaking, my breath ragged. He stepped back, his eyes dark with hunger and something like regret, but it was too late. The line had been crossed, even if we hadn't gone all the way. I was marked, branded by his touch, and I'd never be the same. I stumbled out of the ring, my legs unsteady, my tank top still clinging to me like a confession. The neon lights were dim now, but they couldn't hide the heat still burning inside me. I grabbed my jacket, my fingers fumbling, and headed for the door, the cool night air hitting me like a slap. The drive home was a blur of city lights and guilt, my heart pounding with what I'd done, what I'd almost done. Michael was asleep when I got home, his face soft in the lamplight, peaceful, trusting. I stood over him, watching his chest rise and fall, the guilt twisting like a knife in my gut. The days that followed were a fog of want and shame. I went through the motions, cooking dinner, kissing Michael goodnight, but my mind was back in that gym, back with Theo's hands, his eyes, his strength. I saw him again at a sports bar, his gaze catching mine across the crowd. We didn't speak, but we didn't need to. The air between us was charged, a silent promise of what could have been, what still might be. I told myself I'd stay away, that I'd be good. But every night as Michael slept beside me, I lay awake, my body burning with the memory of a touch that wasn't his, a fight that changed everything. The guilt was a living thing now clawing at me, but so was the desire, a rhythm that wouldn't fade. Theo was just a trainer, a man who'd taped a wrist, but he'd landed something in me I couldn't dodge. I'd stopped short of the edge, but I'd gone far enough to know I'd never be whole. The gym, the ring, his hands, they were branded into me, a mark I'd carry forever. If this story set your heart racing, smash that like button. If you think I'm a fool for stepping into the ring, hit dislike. I deserve it. Drop a comment. What would you do in my place? Subscribe for more stories that cut deep. Share this with someone who needs to feel the fire, and check out the next one. The truth is raw, messy, and worth it. Catch you soon.